Erickson Blackney with the Center for Rural Strategies, and joining me in conversation today is Mississippi State Senator Robert Jackson, a Democrat representing District 11, which includes Coahoma, Panola, Quitman, and Tunica counties in the Delta, Northwest Junior College, and the University of Southern Mississippi across the state in Hattiesburg, closing in on my neck of the woods. Thank you for your time today, and actually a special heartfelt thank you, as you recently tested positive for COVID-19, but still insisted on doing this interview, having this conversation. First and foremost, how are you doing today, Senator?
Thank you. Thank you for having me this morning. I'm doing pretty well. I think I had a very mild case considering how it's dealt with some people and across the country, so I'm doing pretty well. Thank you.
Given your experience, what advice would you share with others?
Well, the advice I would share with others is the worst thing you could do is spread this virus. So the best thing to do is to stay home and stay away from other family members that you may be sharing your home with, so that they won't get infected. One thing that I've learned about this virus is that people who don't have folks there to care for them in the home or wherever, it's going to be pretty hard to fight. And I just thank God that I have a loving wife who's been at my beck and call to try to help me through this process.
Now, according to the Mississippi State Department of Health, in Panola, there are 617 cases, 400 Black, 87 white. Quitman, 138 cases, 100 Black, 4 white. Tunica, 100 cases, 88 Black, 15 white. And then Coahoma, 465 cases, 285 Black, and 74 white. So positive cases are rising at an alarming rate across the state. What is the situation with Delta area hospitals, nursing homes, and other healthcare facilities? Are they prepared?
Well, they weren't prepared before we got into this predicament, and I'm sure they're not prepared now. And the state legislature provided some funding just weeks ago to help hospitals and so forth, but I'm sure the money hasn't gotten there yet, but it's on its way, and it'll be there, but not enough that they need in order to keep ahead of this virus. And the people who need it, as you say, people of color, folks that are having to go to factories to work, and that's where the virus has been just taking off. And the factory workers are at the beck and call of those that they work for, and the factories, as I understand it, are not sending people home when they test positive. They're allowing people to work, and in fact, they're insisting that they stay at work, which is further exacerbating the situation.
So how do we get past that? How do we get the employers to actually do the right thing?
That's the $64,000 question. Who has the authority to make them do what they need to do for us to get ahead of this outbreak? We can appeal to the governor. The governor has put 23 counties under his watchful eye in terms of making them wear masks. That's good, but it doesn't go far enough to tell counties that they need to, check employment sites to make sure that there's no outbreaks there. We're not requiring employers to close the doors if they have an outbreak. So we just haven't gone to that next step in order to try to stem the tide of this thing spreading.
So you said you could appeal to the governor. What grade would you give Governor Tate Reeves on his handling of the virus?
I would say a D. The president gets an F, and the governor has been trying to do as the president has called on his Republican-led governors across the country to follow his lead. Our governor has broken a little bit in that he's required folks to wear a mask, so he gets a D.
What would you say then that the governor needs to do right now to begin to get this crisis under control?
Well, I would think that we would need to go back to where we were back in March or April, which is to put the state under a lockdown. I think people need to stay in place. As we know, that's the best way in order to get ahead of this virus. You got to stop spreading it, and people going to work and going to these environments where they either carrying the virus or picking it up wherever they go, wherever it's at work or going shopping. And now we're talking about sending kids to school, which further just makes the situation worse. As we know, kids pick up all kinds of viruses, illnesses, and they take them back home, and then they infect the rest of the household, and then that goes into the rest of the community. It's pretty tough. But as you know, the virus is on the increase, and
absolutely, and even the teachers have concerns.
Yeah, teachers as well. If I had to make the decision, I wouldn't require parents to send their kids to that environment.
Well, let's talk about Georgia Congressman John Lewis, a son of the rural South who died last week. Lewis was one of the big six leaders of groups who organized the 1963 March on Washington. The big six being Lewis, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., James Farmer, A. Philip Randolph, Roy Wilkins, and Whitney Young. And just to note, James Farmer, when he spoke of the Big Six, he included Dorothy Height, president of the National Council of Negro Women. Anyway, you knew this lion of the modern day civil rights movement. Can you share a memory of John Lewis with us?
I've been in several places where John Lewis was in attendance. I didn't know him personally, and as I look back, the difference between our ages is about 15 years. He's 60, I'm 65, he was 80. But I do remember him being in the civil rights movement. I remember me being a teenager, just about 12 or 13, when things were really hot and the assassination of Dr. King. And I'm just so thankful that we had people like John Lewis who gave of himself unselfishly so that people like me could serve in the state Senate in the state of Mississippi. Who would have thought back, 15 years ago that would even be possible, and the state of Mississippi and the Delta of Mississippi on top of that. So we're just thankful for his life and his legacy, and I'm going to do everything I can to earn the right to be here, because I know what he sacrificed in order for me to be here.
Interestingly enough, 5 years ago this month, Congressman Lewis rose to the floor of the House of Representatives to call on his colleagues to ban the flying of the Confederate flag on federal lands. He said, quote, "It's a symbol of division, a symbol of separation. It is a symbol of hate. It is a relic of our dark past." So a relic of our dark past. And here we are, Mississippi 2020. In late June, lawmakers passed historic legislation to remove the 126-year-old state flag, the last in the nation to display the Confederate battle cross in its design. So let's talk about the flag. This victory didn't come easily, did it? And tell us what shaped the decision to finally change the state flag.
Thank you for asking. We've been through so many fights that, you forget some of those, but this is one you can't forget, obviously. The flag has been an issue for as long as I've been living in this state, and never did I think that I would have the opportunity to vote in order to get rid of it. But not only was I able to vote, the picture that was taken at the time that we made that historic vote was a picture of me hugging the white state senator who championed the bill on the floor, Chairman Hobson. And I was so overtaken by the situation that I rushed up and gave him a hug. Some people say that may have been a time that I contracted the virus. I don't know, but I was overwhelmed by the moment, and I had to congratulate him. And that picture was the one that went viral all over the country. And the next day, I got up feeling good about being able to make that vote, and knowing that the flag was coming down. I got to the Capitol, and I look at the state paper, and it's a picture of me hugging Chairman Hobson. I said, wow, on the front page. And then I get a call from a friend from New York saying, you're on the front cover of the New York Times, and which was a huge surprise. And obviously that was a picture that most newspapers used that day to let the world know that Mississippi had stepped into the 21st century. So it's, it's a big deal for me.
Governor Reeves has been criticized for refusing to take a firm stance on whether Mississippi should change its state flag. When Reeves signed the bill in June, he seemed to plan a foot on both sides of the debate by saying, quote, I know there are people of goodwill who are not happy to see this flag change. They fear a chain reaction of events erasing our history, a history that is no doubt complicated and imperfect. Reeves went on to say, I also understand the need to commit the 1894 flag to history.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. There again, he tries to emulate our president in that he wants to be on both sides of an issue. The flag, to me and for many across this country, was a symbol of hate and a symbol of a time past that was not good for African Americans and people who thought it bad for humans to enslave other humans. So I don't know how he can champion that kind of a past, but people have different views, and that's his view, and I guess that's the way he was brought up, and that's the way he thinks. But thanks be to God that a majority of legislators decided to think otherwise and to take appropriate actions to put the flag where it belongs, in a museum. As I expressed to a friend of mine, how did it make you feel now that we have this symbol taken down? I said, it feels like a new level of freedom for me. I could imagine how people felt back in Juneteenth when they finally found out that they were free from slavery. I felt sort of like that when we took the vote to take down the flag. It was a very emotional period for me, and it still is when I think about it.
Well, anything else you want to bring up or mention that we haven't touched on, Senator? Well,
I've served in this position for now 17 years, and I would be the first to say I don't know much about Mississippi history, and that a lot of Mississippi history is still yet to be discovered. But I did discover that back in the early 1970s, Fannie Lou Hamer ran for the state senate in District 11, which to me was a huge honor for me to be able to serve in this capacity of a person who tried to win that position back in the 1970s. So I'm not, nearly the person that Fannie Lou Hamer was, nor could I be, but I'm just happy to be able to be of her hue and to have the same mindset to try to make the quality of life for all Mississippians better.
Well, State Senator Robert Jackson, you have been more than generous with your time. Thank you, and wishing you a quick and robust recovery. Hopefully you'll be good for another 100,000 miles.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to be with you. I've enjoyed it.